Hey y'all, so it seems like we should be back or coming on back. So welcome back. Hope y'all had some nice little stretch break and got a chance to groove to the tunes that were being played by DJ SJ. So this time around, what we want to do is we had a well, first off, let me say thank you, Michael Weiss, for your presentation. Really, really enjoyed that presentation, and thank you for answering the questions that were asked by the participants of this first session. And what we want to do now is hear from each other, allow each other to share like what we've been doing, right? And when we think about engagement in rural and remote areas, how we utilize various social media strategies, maybe what even apps or even partners, right? We've worked with to kind of strengthen our engagement in those rural and remote areas. This is also a time where you can utilize the your action planning toolkit, right? And thinking about from session one, some of the key takeaways from the conversation that you're hearing from either Michael Wise from earlier or even from each other as we begin to share what we're doing in our own respective jurisdictions or CBOs, what have you. And then also, when you think about maybe some questions that you may want to ask, right? Just thinking about ways to address whatever challenges, barriers you may have, and thinking about implementing various social media strategies, or even just questions that you may have thinking about ways to strengthen what you're currently doing. Definitely ask that. I think Michael was able to share with us some challenges, barriers, right? Internal challenges and barriers that they encountered, right? When thinking about implementing various social media strategies. So what would be those challenges and barriers that you may have internally in your own respective jurisdiction? Think about that, and then let's like write that down so we know once we get back to our respective agencies, we're able to really have that in place and know what we can do to move forward. So next slide for me, please. So what we're going to do is just a series of questions, 3 questions. And again, this is for us to share and hear from one another. And this first question is around what has been your experience utilizing social media to engage rural and remote areas into HIV prevention? And in that, just describe some successes and lessons learned along the way so we can also hear and know what we may encounter. So I'm going to repeat the question again. It's around what has been your experience in utilizing social media to engage rural and remote areas into HIV prevention. And again, describe some of the successes and lessons learned. I see Rose, you on first. I'll turn it over to you. Hey.
So I was really excited to hear that other folks were, did I freeze? No, I was really excited to hear that other folks were doing app outreach. We started using Grindr and it has been really, really successful in a multitude of ways. One of which is just being able to answer questions, but it's also been really great for specific outreach. We do free STD testing events. You can put a little flyer on your Grindr so that people can see it and it's like a poster board. So I really like it in that respect. And particularly in a more like rural conservative area, it's nice to be able to access a community with it being relatively anonymous and safe for folks to do that. I think about other dating apps and it gets difficult depending on the dating apps that you look at. I've certainly wanted to expand. Tinder's hard because you have to swipe right on people. So am I going to spend my workday like swiping right on everybody in our community so that they can talk to us and ask us questions? I don't know. So I think it's being really aware of what app does what and how much time it would take versus how much benefit you're going to get, which has been beneficial to me.
Thank you, Rose. And I'd love to hear some of the successes that came out of that when you think about engagement in Grindr. And then even the lessons learned around just doing the research, right, of the apps that you're thinking about using and what are those capabilities of those apps and how will they like be beneficial to what is that your own attention, right, of using that app. Thank you. Go ahead, Anita. I see you coming on.
Hi, everybody. So I know I love how when we talk about social media, we also think about the apps because we do know that people are out here engaging in sexual behaviors. But we also should also think about, you know, the other social media avenues, Facebook, Instagram, I mean, TikTok. I mean, And here at the Oakland LGBT Community Center, we make it a point to have conversations with individuals and ask them when they're posting about different events and different outreach that they also tag us in it. I know a lot of times staff, when we're online and we do postings, we tag the community center or the community agency, but we also ask individuals that are out in community who are actually right there out doing the footwork, or community members of ours that frequent the agency or seek out services, when they're posting to tag us in it. And, as long as it's appropriate, we're able to then post to our Facebook or to our Instagram, whether it's a posting or it's a photo, an image, maybe even a video, we also do that too.
I see, Anita, you have some folks in the chat who who love the idea around tagging, folks, and using that capability, right? And also thinking about those other apps. Or
definitely, it's kind of like old school tag your it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's out there, and it's like, share it. Yeah.
And thanks for referencing TikTok. I was just going to say, I know most people, when they think TikTok, they think more of the Gen Zers, the younger generation. I just want to put out there, my mom is a heavy TikTok user. Like, she's always on TikTok. She may not be posting, but she's always forwarding me something that she's seen on TikTok. So I do know that folks are using TikTok across various generations. I even found out Rosie O'Donnell met her partner on TikTok. So there's also a dating app, right, where people are meeting folks. So just thinking about not just young people using these social media apps or avenues, but folks across all generations are using these. Do we have others who want to chime in and add to to this question around just their own experience in utilizing social media to engage in rural and remote areas into HIV prevention?
So we have a comment in the chat from Catherine. We have only posted about our testing services through our Facebook and Instagram on our main public health page. We are looking into dating apps, so we are excited to hear all about these successes.
Others want to chime in? If not, we won't press you, because maybe the next question may prompt something from you. So we'll go to the next question. And thank you for those who've shared. Thank you so far. It's great that we're learning from one another. We are a community, so it's good that we learn from one another. Reflecting on the session presentation by Michael Wise, what is one strategy you will consider to engage communities in rural and remote areas? So based on the presentation, what may be one strategy you'll think about using in rural and remote areas? What's that one thing you said, ooh, aha, I need to use that?
This is Shy from Sunburst.
Hey, Shy.
I'm actually in Sacramento, so it's not necessarily a rural area, but we do kind of push out things to the smaller towns around, like Winters and other places where there might not be as supportive of a place. So I think just realizing that these are places that we might want to focus on a little bit more is probably going to be the first strategy that I implement, because our clinic doesn't require proof of residency in Sacramento County. So it could be something that they could have access to and not realize it.
It's like we were thinking about a way to create increased accessibility. I love this. Thank you, Shy. Others want to chime in and thinking about a strategy they may use? Feel free to also type it in the chat box as well.
I mean, call me old school, but I think collaborating with other agencies is always excellent. You can't go wrong when it's not just you, but it's other cohorts out there in the field right alongside you, and where, some agencies may not have the capacity. There's somebody right there kind of like holding you up as a bookend. They're right there to intervene or intercede right there with you, and thus we can grab community, that may have kind of fallen through the cracks somewhere, or data may not have picked them up, we can, you know, we can provide services and resources.
Thank you for that, Anita. Collaboration is key, right? So much that we can leverage through collaboration. So thank you for acknowledging that. We also have folks who say that they're going to look more into the apps. We also have others who are discussing more around how they appreciate the conversation that we're having. And I think it's around, let me make sure I'm getting it all. My mouse is kind of tripping, around stigma reduction convos and analyzing those transcripts. So yes, it's good to have those conversations as well when thinking about that. And we also have more in the chat box where it's around mobilizing efforts to meet people where they are, and also not expecting them to be able to come to you, right? So how do we make services, again, accessible, available, and also acceptable? But from that, right, from this piece that we heard, right, how do we meet people where they are? So how do we make it really accessible and available for people? And then others may mention about like the idea of promoting testing events, using more social media apps. They currently only use Facebook, so this is an opportunity to explore other avenues, right, around ways to promote your events that you're having. Others may think of just one strategy they may use, something that gave them that aha moment. Well, we have a question, and maybe we can answer this. They want to know, do hotlines still work? So in your area, are folks using hotlines? And if so, are they working? Anyone using hotlines? Michael, have you heard any experience of using hotlines?
We have mental health hotlines and other hotlines, but not any related to sexual health. That said, we do have a dedicated line that goes to our sexual health clinic. It's not promoted or advertised as a hotline, but somebody is usually there to answer questions. And the same with our outreach program.
Thank you. Thank you. So there's a few options that Michael just shared there. And something that may be some success that's coming from that and utilizing that line that gets you to a clinician. So we'll move to the next question, see what comes from this one. And just real quick, I want to acknowledge what's in the chat box around the Sniffles app. Can you speak a little bit more on the Sniffles app, just in case folks, I'm not familiar with Sniffles.
Hello, everyone. Hector from APATOC. So I use the Sniffles app. So the Sniffles app, I believe, is only through Safari, and it's a cruising app. So through that app, I use it specifically to show that we have HIV and STI testing and PrEP navigation. So we've had I've used it for a full year. I've gotten like a good 4 to 5 clients from there who just came in just to do a routine STI and HIV checkup. And it's interesting too, because it shows like a whole map of your general area, and it shows you specifically where you are. So I'll just say, yeah, we're literally right here down the street from you. So I've had people come in through there.
So Sniffies, not Sniffles, Sniffies is the app. And apparently Sniffies is a great app to maybe check out as well. Also, folks, a heads up, it was put in the chat box that you can use it through your web browser as well. So if you may not want to download the app, maybe you want to check it on the browser and just give it a feel and see how it works. But that's another great app or another avenue there. Thanks for providing that. Didn't know about Sniffies. All right. The next question we have is, how would you engage your internal and external partners in supporting your social media strategies? Like, what would be their roles? So Anita kind of prompted us into this third question, right? And around the value of collaboration. So Anita, I may put you on the spot just real quick. And you thinking about collaboration, have you thought about maybe some potential partners, both external and internal, that you maybe can work with? And others, feel free to chime in.
Definitely. My CEO, Joe Hawkins, he just actually put in the chat. My office door is closed, but I heard some people outside chatting. And he just was saying how AIDS Project East Bay wanted to do some collaboration. So that's an outside agency. There's also another agency up here that we partner with at times, CalPEP. They provide services in the community. And the agencies that I've mentioned are multicultural. We serve a diverse population, but a lot of times the focal point tends to be BIPOC, Black and Indigenous people of color, because a lot of times we're the population that's, you know, hit so much by HIV and other STIs. And so those are just a couple of agencies as well. And then, you know, it's always good to have peer advocates inside of your agency too. I mean, people that have that lived experience and can share, you know, common stories or things that they've come through, and they work right alongside with the staff, going out into community, having conversations with people, reeling in people from community for not only testing events, but maybe sometimes to come in and share their stories in an affinity support group, or, you know, on a virtual conference or at roundtables. You know, we can share that way too.
Thank you, Anita, for that. Thank you. Others want to chime in and think about other partners? It could be internal or external.
Hey, Anshay, and if I could just add a suggestion, you know, particularly around leveraging dating apps, because I know for health departments there's a lot of red tape. And what I love about Michael's presentation is how you know, this pandemic led to the health department agreeing to use that those apps. And so thinking about how what partnerships would be necessary to help leverage those dating apps, you know, what are some thoughts you're thinking about at reflecting on Michael's presentation as well?
Thank you, Shavar. So others may want to chime in to based on what Shavar just shared, thinking about those dating apps and thinking about who could be those partners that we can work with. And Michael did do a great job and share with us like their relationship with Grindr and even some of the other dating apps. But what are some other dating apps that maybe you all can work with, partner with to make this work?
I'm sorry, not to.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I mentioned BIPOC individuals, and out of all of the apps that I've heard, and thank you again, Michael, for your presentation. It was excellent. I didn't hear Jacked, and I know Jacked is normally an app used by more individuals of color, more Latinx and Black male identified. And I say male identified because I definitely don't want to leave out our trans masculine brothers in the mix. And so, you know, that could be, you know, a definite joining together of the forces and a jumping off point for individuals too. So Jack.
I see Mike has his hand up, so I'm pretty sure there's, go ahead, Mike.
You're absolutely right, Anita. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And we looked at Hornet and Jacked and a whole bunch of others. And interesting, we would find like 2 to 5 people on them from our area. So in our area, they weren't utilized very often. But knowing which ones are used by which communities in your area, geographic area, is really valuable.
So again, this task around the social media strategies, a piece of that is doing the research, right? To get a feel for which app is best based upon the community that you're working with, right? What apps are they using and which ones are most popular in that area as well, right? So those are things to remember when we think about the research that comes at play, right? When we're thinking about our social media strategy. Others want to chime in? This is great. We're all learning from each other. Well, if not, I'm hoping that you are utilizing that action planning toolkit, right? Because that's where we have our key takeaways and these some questions that we can ask ourselves during our planning process. So that's something to remember. I also want to acknowledge something that Shavar just put in the chat box and around just involving the community and developing the strategy is key and critical. Definitely a key partner to consider. So your community that you're serving that should be one of your top top partners, all right? Because they're the ones that you're reaching. You want to make sure that they have their voices, voice their input in this matter in the planning process to know what it is that's going to work and what may not work. So I'll go ahead and just say thank you all for this conversation. I'm hoping that we all are able to learn from one another and know that we can always call upon each other, right? Around what we can do to leverage our own social media strategies.